In today's video, I'm going to talk about the very first notes you should learn on violin that will allow you to play your very first beginner song. Hi, I'm Ariadna, and this is Mindful Strings, where I help you learn the violin on your own time and love it. I run my private violin studio full-time in Boston, Massachusetts, working with students of all ages. And I wanted to put together an online resource for those of you who are picking up the instrument on your own and looking for various lessons and tutorials on the internet. If you're interested in going deeper, I have put together a 15-minute free guide where I share some exercises that are surely to elevate your playing. To grab it, go ahead and click the link down in the description box below. If you're ready to shave years off of your violin learning journey, let's get started. With my beginner students, I really like to combine the process of learning the instrument itself with the process of learning how to read music. I do think that it's kind of important to get started on the reading of the music early because it's very easy to learn how to play by numbers and letters. And once you get in the habit of that, it's actually a little bit harder to get used to reading notes. In today's video, I'm not going to go into full detail of how to read the notes. However, I will walk you through the first notes that you're going to be learning to play your very first songs. We start in the first position, which is where your hand is down here at the bottom of the fingerboard. A great place to start is on the A string, partly because we use the letters of the alphabet for our note names, and so it kind of makes things a little bit easier when you start with A. So the open A string is right here. And as we add fingers on the fingerboard, we go up in the alphabet. So first finger is going to be B, second finger is going to be C, third finger is going to be D, and then fourth finger is going to be E, which actually will match the open E string on the violin as well. Now, every note can be either flat or sharp. Flats make notes half a step lower, and sharps make notes half a step higher. Because of the fact that most of these beginner tunes are going to be in the key of A major on the A string, we're going to be using a higher second finger, which actually plays a C sharp on the violin. So the sound of these notes will be like this: A, B, C sharp, D, and E. This is also actually more comfortable for beginner to keep your second and third fingers close together, which is exactly what's required to play a C sharp and a D, because they are only a half step apart, therefore your fingers are going to be touching. While the pinky is typically the weakest finger and usually the trickiest one to learn, I do recommend that as a beginner you don't avoid it altogether, because your hand placement and your hand shape should be partly dependent on your fourth finger. You want to be able to set up your hand in a way that allows for the pinky to comfortably reach that note on any given string, and then everything else will adjust to that. Otherwise, you fall into the trap of potentially kind of keeping your hand turned out this way. If you just use 1 and 2 or maybe 3, you might learn a bad habit of having your hand unprepared to play the fourth finger altogether. So to find these notes, of course, you should first tune your strings. Hopefully your A is in tune. The B is going to be a whole step up from A. And what this means on the fingerboard is that you want to align the second knuckle of the finger roughly with the bottom of the fingerboard, the nut, which is this part right here, and place the finger pad on the A string. If you are unsure of the tuning, you can use any tuner app. I've recently been using the app called Intonia. Check that out. Or you could simply Google violin tuner online. The first page of Google will actually give you a tuner. I made a video about that in the past. Make sure you're keeping your left wrist straight and the thumb pointing up. If you watch my other videos, you will hear me say this again and again because it's a very important reminder. So there's your A, and there's your B. Now, if you were to put the second finger right next to the first, this would give you a C natural. And if you move your second finger just a finger width up, so we're going from here to here, that will give you your C sharp. Putting the third finger right next to it will give you a D, and then skipping a finger width and placing down the pinky will give you the E. It's very helpful to use your open strings to double check the tuning. So If your violin's in tune, the fourth finger on the A string should match the open E. And then the third finger on the A string, that's the D, actually should match your open D string. Even if you're not 100% certain about your ability to discern pitch accurately, I recommend you play around with this concept anyway, because this is part of what your training is all about. You're going to learn how to hear things that are in tune and out of tune. So now let's talk about the tunes that you can play using these notes. First of all, a very simple one is hot cross buns, which starts on the C sharp. With the exception of adding one note on the E string, you could play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, which will use the open E string, first finger on the E, which makes an F sharp, but it's in the same location as your B on the A, except you're just shifting your first finger over to the E string. And then go to third finger D on the A. Then using your pinky, find the E. You could also play Ode to Joy, starting on the C sharp on the A string. So as you can see, there's lots of similarities between these tunes. There are slight variations in rhythm and order of the notes. But even though they're very similar, they're great to go through so that you can get used to the different patterns that your hand will have to go through. And you can also that way solidify knowing exactly where each finger needs to land in order to play the correct note. I'm showing you all this kind of as a multiple lessons compressed into one so that you could kind of see a trajectory of a beginner when you're first learning how to play. I'm curious to know where you are in your learning journey right now, so please drop me a comment below to let me know what you're working on right now. And if you have any questions, happy mindful practicing, and I'll see you next time.